following program is rated G. It is suitable for all audiences.
Hello guys, today welcome to another JTV videos. I'm Jeremiah and today let's talk about the Norristown high-speed line. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why I'm uploading this on Saturday? Well, because there was school on Monday to Friday. And you know what happened to Friday? It was our Christmas party. It was intense, guys. Like really intense. In the end when we finished our Christmas party, we were like the DJ, like hey. It was so well that we ended up closing the prayer, and then yeah, just like that we say goodbye, next year we will see together. And it's true because we have no pasok when Friday is finished. So yeah, next year we will see our classmates again. Anyways, focus. Now let's go back to the Norristown high-speed line. Why is the Norristown high-speed line is a high-speed line, but it doesn't. So yes, guys, if you're wondering what's the Norristown high-speed line, it's owned by SEPTA and it was construction maybe in the 1990s. Maybe in the 19s. I'm not sure though, but yeah. Anyways, this is okay. So credits to Liberty Rail Fan. Not sponsored, bruh. I should have got YouTube Premium, but it's kind of expensive, so no. This is the perfect example of what the Norristown high-speed line train looks like. Once again, credits to Liberty Rail Fan. There it is. Because of that. Now, yeah, that's how the Norristown high-speed line train set looks like. And you might be wondering, Jeremiah, why is it only one carriage? Should it be like the high-speed other high-speed lines? Yeah, though, but the limited capacity because it's in Philly, but in Train are awesome, and credits to that guy. And Tom said that it's not in Philly, so I'm guessing that it's somewhere else, like outside of Philly, or maybe half of Philly. Yeah. And if you're wondering, high speed line? Once again, this was from a voice from Tom. Anyways, how is it a high speed line if one carriage, third rail, or even one track and two track on ground, but one track is only at elevated part? Like, why is it third rail? Third rail is only used in metro and other things, right? Well, in high speed line they use overhead wires, right? Well, yeah, but it's a dedicated track. There is no crossing. It's just similar to the Ashpont-Matapan high speed line, whereas it uses dedicated tracks with no crossings but trolleys. Yeah, you should also search that though, but it might be hard for you to search, so I'm just gonna put it in the description, okay? Anyways, let's go. Let's see other things. I know. How is it high speed line if it's one carriage? Well, yeah, but it says to be the America's weirdest train. Oh, that's true. But the Norristown high speed line should have like an extension though. So okay, so credits to Alan Fisher.
Big kid na si Ate Z. Ang dami ng activities. Kaya hindi pwedeng magka-immunity gap. Stop! Immunity gap with the right protection for big.
for those who don't know what I'm talking about the King of Prussia extension to the Norristown high-speed line.
Yep,
Now, for those
that's
who
the
aren't
King
in
of
the know,
Prussia
I just said a bunch
extension.
of words and they probably don't mean anything to you. So let's have a brief overview of what I'm talking about. The Norristown high-speed line, other known as the R100 on the SEPTA map, runs from 69th Street Terminal all the way to Norristown. It's a weird transit mode that's a leftover from being an interurban from the Philadelphia and Western Railroad.
Yep.
Anyway, the King of Prussia extension is an extension off of the Norristown high-speed line that goes 4 miles from the main line all the way over to the King of Prussia Mall. This project has so many problems with it that I made an entire video about it here. That video also goes into depth on the sort of the history behind the Norristown high-speed line too. Anyway, the big news today is that this whole project has been canceled. So to discuss why this
Maybe
thing
because
has gotten
of
killed
land
and this project will
development.
not go through, let's talk about why this project got killed or why it got canceled. So in a perfect world, it totally makes sense to build a transit extension to the mall and King of Prussia. It makes sense that this is a big job center and there's a lot of new housing going up over here, so possibly ridership in the future would be slightly higher. But there are two fundamental problems why this project, even in the first place before the cost overruns, was not a good idea. The first has to do with the Norristown high-speed line itself. The problem with this project is that even if you had an extension off of the Norristown high-speed line, you still, to get to Center City, would have to transfer to another service, either to the Market Frankfurt, which is part of their subway metro system, or our regional rail system, which is our farther commuter rail system. So if you're going to be spending a lot of money on a transit project to this job center / mall, then you want to spend money on a one-seat ride generally. So that's the biggest problem to start off with, is that you need a transfer in the first place. And why are you going to spend $3 billion if you're just going to get a transfer? The other problem is that King of Prussia is designed badly in the first place. You are never, ever going to get high ridership out of this area because King of Prussia is such a car-infested hellhole that there's no density around the stations to actually support high ridership. The best you are ever going to get is some bus levels of ridership because that's essentially what you're picking up. You're picking up people on the side of the road, essentially. And I pointed this out in that other video. You're only going to get about 9,000 riders per day, which is worse than 11 bus lines in Philadelphia. So with all of this going against it, why would SEPTA still think that the FTA would fund this? This project has so many issues. I mean, the FTA has thrown out a few L's once in a while. Joking aside, why did SEPTA believe that this project...
Also, I have another question. There could be a possible way, because the project was canceled because of too many curves and it's not even a high-speed line. I think that explains why it was canceled. And maybe the density of the building is high, because if the Norristown high-speed line was built next to buildings to avoid being demolished instead. What if those trains were going so high they even derailed at the first place, and they even tried to crash, and it crashed at a building that is too close to the rail track. And you know that one crash from the Norristown high speed line where it ended up crash at the very end of the station. Yeah, that's why it was being reduced now, and that's the reason why Norristown High Speed isn't actually a high speed line, but uses decadated tracks. If there was a decadated track, I don't know. Maybe in the future the Norristown High Speed line will actually have a high speed line, but uses more carriages and not just single rail train car.
Is going to get funded? My short answer to this is I don't know, but the longer answer might be more interesting. So if you've ever driven or just commuted around Philadelphia in general, you've probably run into one highway that kind of really sucks, which is I-76 or the Schuylkill Expressway. And if you're a listener to any news program or KYW, you'd know that the Conshohocken curve and that whole section of that road sucks. There is always traffic no matter what time of day. And if we refer to my old video on the...
And another fact, that what if the project was unfinished because of density problems? I just realized, if there's too many highways, roads, and if you build a rail transit, that will just make them more problem. Similar to the America's fastest rail track, the Northeast Corridor, which is not really a high speed tracks, because there's too many curves, bridges, and old tunnels. Old tunnels, even though, yeah, but second of all, if the California high speed line opened, then that would be the real one. But due to money being ran out, or even government funding on the railway because of some issues, that's why they abandoned. But so many supporters on the highspeedrail.com. I'm not sure what's the actual website, but it says to support high-speed train, because in the US there's never a high-speed train before, not even a single one. Even in the Norristown high-speed line, that's still not a high-speed line. It uses one carriages. And back to the video.
AOP rail, we know that most of the SEPTA board members live in the suburbs, and 2 of those counties where the board members are from use this road. And because most SEPTA board members are selected because it's a resume padding political position and less that they know what transit is, they don't actually take transit, and instead they drive most places. And because they live in these places, and because this road is such a problem, most SEPTA projects in the past have always tried to fix traffic, which is creating some alternative to get around 76, which makes sense because regional rail also runs up that direction near Norristown. Look, I would love a rail connection to Reading, PA, and I hope that we get it at some point, but I'm also not making any of this up. The last thing that SEPTA has tried to make a big project out of before KOP was the Schuylkill Valley Metro plan. This plan was essentially running regional rail all the way to Reading while giving peak frequencies of a train every 15 minutes, which is actually pretty cool. The problem was that this never really went anywhere past its planning phase because they couldn't get funds for it. So SEPTA...
If only SEPTA used this train that I stopped the video for the Norristown high-speed line, because if it's one carriage, how would the people would ride even more if rush hour begins? Like, bro, how would it be? 2 carriages but ran out 3, 4, 5. Dude, that would just make more money, more wasted. Instead, why not this? Instead, from the 90s or 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. I'm not sure. But hopefully, SEPTA should improve the Norristown high-speed line so that it will use actual high-speed trains, not just like a trolleys, just like the Matapon Ashbon high-speed line. I'm not sure what's the real name though, but yeah.
and the Delaware Valley Planning Commission eventually scaled back a lot of these
Just
plans
look at these
to make
trains.
it
They're
so
so cool,
not
right?
everything was electrified and there wasn't as much service. But eventually it was scaled back so much that the plan just had to be dropped. But that kind of left SEPTA in a tough situation because if you saw on that map, there was one specific stop that was very important. So SEPTA's last-ditch attempt was to save some portion of this project, and since there was transit over in that area already...
The reason I stopped the video because I want to learn more about the Norristown high-speed line, because it's not really like a high-speed line, but it looks like a high-speed line. Let's see. Yeah, guys, there's literally no riders though. Like credits to JF Transit, by the way. Yeah, like, look, it's true because JF Transit said, why is there almost no riders, and compared to that, to the actual high speed line, it has many ridership. But if you compare to this little transit, it only low ridership. So why not build an actual high speed line in the Norristown? Well, first of all, finally, Norristown will be finally having real high speed line. Like example, a Philly to New York, that would be better. Second of all, no. Second of all, oh no. You know why? Oh no, because if there's actual electric wires, no third rail, no train set that is just one, but actual high speed trains like in U.S. or Japan. First of all, the old curves from the Norristown high speed line will make the actual high speed trains in the Norristown high speed line derail. And it is true because there is many curves and even buildings surrounding it. And if you try to actually add a high-speed line, the neighbors will say to complain to demolish it because of some noise complaints. Now, it's just like the Japanese Shinkansen though, where there's too many noise. Yeah. Oh yeah, 7 years ago, wow, the Northeast Coast Rail fan. Credits to that guy. Because I'm gonna show you this thing. I mean, just look at that. They added 2 carriages for more ridership. Even though that didn't just add up, why not add the actual SEPTA? Why not add the the actual ones? Okay, look at that again. Look at that. See, it skips the station though. Credits to Southwest Philly Transit Banner is from 3 months ago. And if you try to compare that though, well, copyright intro though, by the way. Even though if you speed up, it looks like a high-speed line, but it stops at every station that's just far away. So it's not really a high-speed line because high-speed lines skip stations that need express service and local. But this one, nah, it didn't use that. It only used local. So yeah, guys, the real proof is the Norristown high-speed line is not a high-speed line actually because it has no express or local. Well, the Norristown high-speed line, or wait, or the 8 or the ATHSL once had express service, but I really thought that express service is just not going to the station though, because I mean, yeah. But yeah, so Norristown, so the NTHSL is not really a high-speed line. Instead, it's just a line that stops every station, not the actual high-speed line from the NTHSL. So yeah, guys, I don't have really information about the Norristown high-speed line. Yeah, because I do not know if more information about the Norristown high-speed line. But maybe in the future, when I'm adult now or teenager, I might actually know why it's not really a high-speed line, or is it a high-speed line? Thank you for watching. For the next time, I'm gonna tell about what if Siemens to Zero was delivered for a high-speed line. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in another video. This is JTV signing off.